Tonight we're doing the law of sacrifice. Hold on a second, let me get comfortable here. The law of sacrifice, which says everyone involved must enter into and remain in a relationship with a willingness to give, not to take. Both parties have to be willing to sacrifice for each other and for the relationship. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You need, two people that are willing to give more than take for the other's benefit. The only things we should never sacrifice for a relationship are integrity, character, biblical principles, and our walk with God. Those are the things that are not up for grabs. Everything else, depending on your relationship, that you could be willing to sacrifice. So whatever whatever it takes attitude and a willingness to sacrifice provides proof that one person truly values the other and the other person and that relationship. So they're willing to dig deep and like do whatever it takes to within limits, like we talked about, character, integrity. You want to sacrifice any of that, but within limits, they're willing to do whatever they can to sacrifice for the other person. And it should, both people, go ahead, Mother.
Oh no, finish that. Yeah, you can finish that.
Both people should be willing to do this. It can't just be in previous weeks we know we need a win-win relationship. So both people need to be willing to make the sacrifice. Okay, go ahead.
So that reminds me of even without not being in a particular relationship, because even with this, it's all about giving. So both sides are giving, they're not taking, they have to give. And so that reminds me of how if you are, say you are depressed or whatever is going on with you, that you're heavy and downtrodden or whatever, you pour your life into someone else's life. You give, you help, you provide however you can for someone else, help build up someone else, and that helps you. You're not receiving anything back from that person, but you are being the giver. And that's why the word says it's better to give than to receive. Right. Being a giver is truly the best part of it all, because you will receive something, sometime or another for it, but being a giver is the best. Yeah.
Right. It adds up over time. What was I finna say? I forgot what I was finna say. And that this sacrifice goes for like any type of relationship. It's not just a romantic relationship. Like in the case of a employer-employee, the employee may sacrifice working overtime, but the employer will have to sacrifice by paying that worker for that overtime. So are giving the person raises for good work done, going above and beyond. So that's a two-way street too. So sacrifice is not easy because human nature is hardwired to crave comfort and convenience. Whatever is outside of our comfort, whatever is outside of convenience, we don't want to do. And this is hard. Oh my God, it's so hard. But if you already know that this is gonna stretch me and challenge me, then if you know that ahead of time, you can be more willing to see where it goes, to see how this is going to plan out. You kind of have a heads up that it's not going to be easy. So when we become too comfortable with others, we develop a sense of familiarity that can breed neglect. So you start taking people for granted. It's like indifference, having indifference toward that person, like it doesn't matter, that, you know, whatever kind of attitude. And that can lead to instances of disrespect and problems over time. When you start taking people for granted, they don't feel worthy, or what's the word? They don't feel wanted or appreciated. Yes, appreciated. Appreciated. Thank you, Mother Child. So we become accustomed to convenience, and if something is inconvenient, we tend not to make an effort to attain it. If it's too hard, we don't want to go after it. Some people. But then there's other things, you know how they say, if everything comes easy, you don't appreciate it, or you don't value it as much as if you don't work as hard for it. We must discard the idea of convenience, because godly relationships have nothing to do with whether they're convenient or not. Godly relationships involve sacrifice for others, as Jesus sacrificed for his life for us. So, which is in the book, they give the example of 1 John 3:16. You know, this is how we know what love is Jesus laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. So relationships require investments of time, energy, resources, and commitment, which are not always convenient to give. Sometimes you have somebody, like, say, I don't know, say somebody, their car broke down and you got to leave work and go pick them up, instead of telling them to catch the bus or take a cab. You know, you gotta, show that you're willing to help this person, help these people in your life out sometimes. Don't just be selfish all the time. So we must make it a habit to continually respect and value others, meeting their needs, sacrificing for the people immediately when the need arises. We can't wait until a convenient time to help or support them. Like, again, the time that person's car broke down, you at work, you can't just be getting up and leaving, but make the sacrifice, take that extra 2 hours sick time, mark it down, and you say you gotta go, do what you gotta do. And the other person appreciate that, like Mother Child said, down the line, but depending on the mindset of the other person, they'll appreciate it.
I appreciate that right away.
Right. So often the inconvenience kindness that we extend to people demonstrates to them how much we care and value the relationship. So again, going that extra effort will let them know how much we care, and vice versa. They should be trying to, do some sacrificing for you too. Let's see here. So the first reality of sacrifice is that relationships cost. It's going to cost you something. So if you don't put anything into a relationship, you don't get anything in return. You can prove that you are serious about a relationship by how much you're willing to sacrifice for it. We see like movies all the time where two people fall in love, one gets a job somewhere else, another state, and they want that person to come with them, but that person doesn't want to give up their life, where they are. They don't want to, but how much, how much are you willing to sacrifice? And again, it goes both ways. The other person could pass up on that job, you know. So that would be a deep conversation between those two people. So yeah, like I said, it's relationships costs, or they're not easy. So let's see here. So there's a principle in the book. He mentions this principle, which is too much plus too soon plus too freely equals disaster. So in a relationship, when you're given too much, too fast, and too openly, just right, that's going to be a disaster. You're giving too much of yourself without getting anything else in return. And that can lead to the person taking you for granted again, like we talked about. So, and one of the examples that he gave was the prodigal son, who squandered his father's inheritance because he wanted to have it right away. He didn't want to wait till his father passed away. He wanted to have it then. And he gave it to him, which was too easy. It didn't cost him anything. It didn't cost him time, the time he would have waited to get it when his father passed. He didn't want to pay that time. So he wanted to have everything now. And so after the son lost everything, the son began to think differently and was willing to return home to serve his father, because he sacrificed his pride and his time and his stature to return home to his father. So it's like he realized after he threw everything away what he already had. You know what I mean? What he could have had all of that anyway, but he wanted to get it right then, and it cost him. Does anybody have any other takes on that story?
That was too much too soon.
Exactly. Exactly.
Elder Marcia, I think of our current president when I think of too much too soon. Somebody who is spoiled, who gets everything they want. I think growing up, Trump, he had a silver spoon in his mouth, and I guess when you are a privilege like that, there's no need to work to establish relationships. If your parents, I don't know if his parents gave him everything, but I think his parents probably spoiled him and gave him a lot growing up, and he didn't have to work to build a relationship with other, I guess, individuals. Wherever there was a problem, they perhaps threw money on it, or solved it in some way by intervening and making it better through their riches or whatever. So when you're poor and you don't have much, you gotta work to build a relationship. You have to go in and take what you have, whatever talent you have, whatever skills or knowledge you have, and talk with people and build relationships. But when you have money, if I don't like this group of people, my dad would pay for me to go to another school, or things like that. So it seems that it would have been easier to just throw money at it. And so I think that's an example of not having any skin in the game, not having to sacrifice anything, to build a good relationship. And I think that will prepare him for his future, you know what I'm saying? Because, this carries through life. Look what he's doing now. So,
I agree. And he's passing that on to his kids. His kids, it's going on down the line. They don't have any kind of ethic, you know what I mean? Like working for things that's going to cost you something, rather than having it. I think all of them have worked for their dad. So okay. Yeah. Okay, where was I at? Oh, here we go. And the second reality of sacrifice, the first one was relationships cost. The second is healthy relationships are worth it. So if you're willing to sacrifice for a healthy relationship, it'll work out. It will. The price you're willing to pay for something reveals its value to you. So
And
yes.
and you mean with both making the sacrifice, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody, yeah, both
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Healthy relationships require investment, and an investment involves risk. So it's like what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. Sometimes people there are people that like put up a wall or something because they don't want to risk getting hurt in a relationship. But if you do that, you don't get a chance at any kind of relationship. So you need to put in the time or investment and be willing to give up something, for that chance at a healthy relationship. So when you sacrifice for a relationship by investing your time and resources, you send the message that it means so much to you that you're willing to give up those things. So and that sends a message to the other person that they're worth it. They're worth this investment that you're giving them. Examples of sacrifice, like in the book you mentions, like a person who gives up golfing with their buddies. They go shopping with their spouse. Maybe the woman wants his opinion on an outfit or something. So instead of going golfing with his buddies, which he can do any other time, but this is time his wife wants him to go with her. So he sacrifices.
Too. I'm kidding.
What'd you say?
I said she can shop me any other time too, but I'm just kidding.
Keep the wife happy.
Oh, yeah. So, or a woman gives up a weekend with the girlfriends to help the spouse take care of a sick parent. And we were talking about employer-employee relationships. A CEO gets up early and stays late at the office in order to save a failing company, that keeps people in their jobs, and to keep them paid. Church members willing to give up their time and time with their families to support those who are grieving a death or a crisis. So you can think of every relationship. There's a occasion where you can make a sacrifice. Any relationship. Yes.
So I was thinking about when you had mentioned about a person having a wall put up, a wall of defense to avoid being hurt. Mm-hmm. And so they're not making these sacrifices because they have this fear of being hurt. So I was thinking that they, before they even consider a relationship with someone, that they have to work on their healing from where they'd been hurt before. Mm-hmm. Be healed first because when you go into this other relationship, if you have that wall up, then you're just going to have that other person give, and then they'll feel unappreciated. Right. Because they're continuously giving. So, before you get into a relationship, you should really work hard on being healed.
Right. And in the previous chapters, we talked about things that the person that you can invest, ask questions about this person. Don't just jump into a relationship with anybody. Are they even worth it? Is this person even worth you putting down your walls? So over time, you can find that out by, talking to them, asking questions like we discussed in the previous chapters. So yeah. Okay. So investing in relationships with others and being willing to sacrifice for other people proves that we desire a deeper relationship with God. Because as Christians, as Christians, our relationship with God and our relationships with other people are intricately connected. Because that's how we relate. We relate to God through how we relate to other people. It's we showing love to other people, how the way God wants us to, the way God shows us love. And then, yes, Brother Trail.
Yes, and as you were talking, I thought of that scripture. I think it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13, in regard to what love is. Love suffered long and is kind, and all of those things. As you were talking in regard to sacrifice, and that's what that put me in mind of, is that scripture right there. I just wanted to make
Exactly. Right. Thank you. And also Mark 12, 29 and 31 tells us to love God with everything we have and to love our neighbor as ourselves. So these are the greatest commandments. Our love of God is demonstrated by how we love others. So if you think about that, we all know there are some people that we call them hard to love. So if you think about you're not loving them for them, you're loving them because God loves you. So think of it that way. You're expressing your love for God through them or towards them. So we can't separate our love for God from our love for people. It can be challenging to love some people. Like I said, we all know people who get on our last nerve. But if you recognize that you're loving God through them, if you understand that your love for them springs from your love for God, then you can do it regardless of what they do. I mean, you can love them regardless of what they do. So you love people around you, not because they're always lovable, but because you're in love with God. So you get around those people that say in your head, I love God, I love God, I love God. Just and yes.
So these people that are hard to love,
Mm-hmm.
And like almost in spite of what they do, you would still love them. When saying that to a person would, could kind of get a little misconstrued there a little bit, because the people, the ones that are probably hard to love, are probably people that are not showing you love. They're probably not being, you don't feel appreciated by people like that, right?
Yeah, that's
So
true. That can happen.
that can make them pretty hard to love. And so so these are people that probably take advantage of you. So you kind of like wonder, well, how do I love them?
Well, in the previous chapters, you can still love them from afar.
Okay.
You can, like, there's one of the statements in his book says you can be willing you can love them without having them in your life. Be willing to give up,
Right. Yes.
to get rid of a relationship that's not good for you.
I remember that. Yeah.
But you can still love them.
Okay.
Just from over there. Oh, the third reality of sacrifice is sacrifice keeps relationships going. Maintaining successful relationships over a period of time requires sacrifice. Those who are willing to sacrifice reap the benefits of successful relationships. And all relationships need maintenance in order to stay healthy, and sacrifice provides the energy needed to maintain those relationships. if a relationship is not maintained, then it's not a relationship. You're just having an acquaintance. If you're not doing anything to keep this relationship healthy, you're then it's not a relationship. The person is just an acquaintance to you. You're not working towards anything. Relationships are maintained with steady investment of time and interaction. So if you don't have any investment, if you're not spending any time with this person, not in doing any of your actions with this person, that's not a relationship. That's just an acquaintance that you just talk to every now and again. Keeping up with people can be time consuming. That's why it's a sacrifice. Like I was talking about last week, how I had 2 friends when I was younger, but I don't have those type relationships now because I haven't put any time into contacting them or any interaction with them lately. So you can have the best marriage or be the best friends with someone right now, but if you stop working on making the relationship better, it will eventually die. If you value a relationship, sacrifice for it and maintain it. Any thoughts? Yes, Brother Terrell.
Marsha, now, in regard to loved ones, you know, I am not the person who is around my family all the time. You know, I live over here in St. Louis. Not saying that this is an excuse, but you know, they live in Illinois, so I don't, you know, run over there all the time to sit and to, you know, to be with them and just talk whatever. I do, I guess call on the phone every once in a while perhaps. And then I send like birthday cards, you know, for the birthday, and we get together for holidays. But, you know, I don't consider myself as building a relationship with them on a continual basis, you know, just spending time with them constantly and being in their presence and all of that. So would you say that my family is more of an acquaintance then, you know, based on what you just said, you know, with an acquaintance, you don't hang around folks all the time. But with an acquaintance, you kind of, I feel close to them still in my heart, but I just don't spend that kind of time with them all the time. I spend more time with
my
church family than I do with them. Not saying that I don't love them or that I'm trying to avoid them. I just don't. You know, we stay in touch. If they need anything, if something comes up, you know, let me know, and you know, I'll do my best to do whatever I can to fix it, whatever. So you know, we still tight like that.
Yeah, but that's making an effort. The birthday cards, the you know, being there when they call, you know, that kind of I would think that was a relationship. You don't have to be in somebody's face every other day, but at least be trying to, at least in contact, you know. Yeah, you're doing something, and then vice versa. They're, you know, it's back and forth, right? It's not just you putting that forth, that effort.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I would think that was a relationship.
Okay.
I think an acquaintance was like, let's see, what could be an acquaintance? Like somebody, I don't know, your insurance guy calls you every 6 months to renew your policy, and he asks you questions about your life and all that kind of stuff. And then after you give him your money, you know, you don't see him for another 6 months. So, you know, that's kind of, I mean, that's a little bit of what I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's not really a relationship built there.
There is not.
Something like that, you know.
No.
That's not really a relationship. But with families where you know, send cards and, you know, you communicate now, and, you know, this is family, and, you know, that there is a love there, that's more of a relationship. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got some marriages. Go ahead.
I feel kind of guilty in that, you know, I don't spend enough time with them, especially my mom. You know, I do want to make an effort to perhaps, you know, I used to, I guess, cut the grass you know, every once in a while,
Mhm.
maybe every other week or something like that. But my sister, she's, you know, taking care of that now, so I don't go over there very much. But you know, every once in a while, I guess I'll call her, and then she may call, you know, she calls me more than I call her. I'm gonna be honest. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But you know, that's something that I really want to improve on, is spending more time with her at least. You know, because and you know, because she's up in age, and I don't want her to leave here
Right.
without me not having spent enough time. You know what I'm saying? So, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a short distance away, I could do better. So that's what I'm saying. That's yeah.
Right. Yeah, you want to put in a more of an effort towards that relationship. Yeah, I get it. But oh yeah, that's what I was saying. So there are marriages that could be acquaintances because one person, they don't talk, they just come home and sit on the couch, don't, you know, there's no interaction. And this is a you just that's thinking in my head, this is a horrible marriage. So nobody's working on the relationship, nobody's doing any sacrifices, they just thinking about themselves, um, taking each other for granted. So that could be an example of a relationship that's now an acquaintance. You're not doing anything to foster a healthy relationship. And at that point, I think it's time to say bye. But then again, these two people could be in this out of they probably don't even realize it's gotten that bad. You know, they just got used to it. It's like they become roommates and not two people in a relationship. Yes, Mother Trout.
So I had read this book by Stormy O'Martin. It was The Power of the Praying Wife. And her and her husband had stopped communicating. It had gotten so bad that they weren't even talking. They weren't even talking anymore. But I think that they went to counseling, you know, or whatever. But anyway, and her prayer, her fervent prayer, and I guess that I can't remember everything that she said she did in the book, but anyway, their relationship did build back together, and now, you know, now they have a strong, powerful marriage. But it had gotten so bad that they were not even speaking anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah,
in
so
order to get that better, they had to put in time and effort,
they
right?
both had to do. They both had to. But because she, I guess, I don't know if he didn't notice or what, I don't know, but she started off doing the
It
giving.
might just take one person,
It might
both of them
take,
in the
yeah,
same boat.
right.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Okay, so in this chapter, I'm going to run through the summary, I guess. Um, what he calls them relationship reminders. So, though sacrifice is necessary for a relationship, don't ever sacrifice your character, your integrity, your biblical principles, or your walk with God. Relationship, we talked about relationships costing. So be willing to invest in them, knowing that the relationships themselves are important and that they're vital to you fulfilling God's purpose for your life. We talked about anything worth having is worth sacrificing for. The more valuable a relationship is in your life, the more you may have to sacrifice for it. You will receive most from the relationships in which you invest the most. So the more work you put in, the more you get out of it. Separating your love for God from your love for other people is impossible. The two work together. We talked about how we love people, how we love God. The great relationships require continual investment of time, energy, care, and communication. You cannot reasonably expect a relationship to thrive or even survive if you're not willing to maintain it. Any questions so far? Thoughts? Before I get into our questions? Yes, Mother
Uh,
Trout?
This kind of made me think about when I was buying this house. So it's not a relationship with the house, but I'm just saying that that when I came and saw it, I mean, I was like, I wanted so bad that I was really gonna do just about anything, to get it. You know, it's like when it's something that you feel is really worth investing in, like a relationship, you'll do. You got to have your limit though, okay? Always
Oh,
have a
yeah.
about how
Yes.
far you're gonna go, right? But you would do almost. That's why I say almost anything, to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good example.
Um,
All right. So, yes,
question.
sir.
Just apologize for being late. What was the title for this chapter or section?
This was the law of sacrifice.
Thank you.
Yeah, the law of sacrifice. My question I had. Okay, so when you're in a relationship, what do you find most difficult to sacrifice? So take, for example, your time, other relationships that may be less valuable, finances, or things you want for yourself. What kind of things would you sacrifice? Or do you find most difficult to sacrifice in a relationship?
I hate to say this because I'm one of those people, but my sacrifice is like visiting in-laws. That's a sacrifice for me, and I that's why I try with G and Melanie to make them as comfortable as possible when they come over, because I wouldn't want them to feel like that's a sacrifice to come over here. But that's a sacrifice. That's a
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
But you're willing to do that for your partner, for your other,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything?
I would say time, because with me working 8 to 5, and then I come home, I got some other things going on in regard to trying to. Well, I haven't been doing much lately, but I do have other pursuits in addition to my job, in regard to
Right.
earning income, and that doesn't put me in the time category too good, because I don't have much of it then. Then on the weekend, people be tugging at me to run an errand to the store for them, and I do it, but I could be doing other things, even if it's just relaxing, just taking time for myself. I love to do that, because during the week you're so busy, you're doing things, and you just want some time to yourself to just kind of relax and just to catch your breath. In other words, yeah. So to me, that's one of the bigger things that I need to work on is time, making time for other people. That's what I need to do, is make time for other people, especially my family.
When brother Terrell said, take some time for myself. My sister was telling me that her daughter she has a 2-story home, right? And her daughter's bedroom is upstairs, and said her daughter wasn't coming down this particular day for the whole day. I said, why? Because she's having her me time. And so, and I'm like, wow. I would like to have me some
That's a foreign concept to you, huh, Mother Trout?
I just want to go take a nap, And I said, I'm like, tell her to get her behind down there, because if I can't have time like that, she can't either. Yeah, but me
Yeah, I
time is
mean,
definitely necessary, and I would, yeah, I need that.
yeah.
I'd like to have a nice nap sometimes, but
Yeah, sometimes we got to cultivate a relationship with ourselves, do things for ourselves sometimes. Ugh, what else? So let's see. Okay. Okay, we got time for one more. So from your perspective, what is the connection between the value and investment? Why does sacrificing for a relationship increase its value? So what is the connection? What do you think the connection is between value and investment?
well, if you don't invest in anything that's of value to you, like for instance, as Brother Terrell had mentioned, your time. If you don't invest that thing that's of value to you, then it doesn't really mean that much to you.
Mm-hmm.
And this relationship should really mean something to you uh, in order for you to invest something of value.
Right, right.
I think that's the answer, part of the answer to the question.
Well, I mean, these questions, most of them are just like make you think kind of questions, like not really right or wrong answers, just like trying to get you to think about the material we covered. Yes, Pastor, you had something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's tricky because when I think about that, I wonder how much is, I mean, obviously, well, how much that we invest is in the relationship as opposed to a person investing by way of the relationship into their own issues. So, for example, I think I mentioned this like last week or week before, like personal insecurities or being in friendships that are negative because you just, you have to feel like people love you or people are in your corner and this and that. And so you might be investing in a relationship or a friendship or whatever the case may be, but it's not really that you value the relationship itself. You just value the idea of it more.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's like almost that it's like the relationship is a proxy for one's own
Ah.
and that they might be unhealthy. So like sometimes we're investing, but it's not really in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was just a thought.
Okay. Now you got me thinking about that. Okay.
No, like for instance, so like in marriage, and one of the things like in counseling that I try to help people to recognize is that some of what your relationship issue isn't a relationship issue. It's a you issue, and it's being projected
Okay.
into the relationship. But it doesn't even really involve the other person. This is your own issue that you got to deal with privately and outside of the relationship dynamic, but you're projecting it. And so I just, so in hearing about relationships require investment and your value and worth, and don't get me wrong, I totally agree with that when it's a healthy relationship. It's just that
Yes.
sometimes we can be investing in unhealthy situations that
That's
and
true.
we kind of know it's unhealthy. So it's not really the relationship we're investing in, but our own insecurity that we're like guarding, if you will, or protecting. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So so if you're like giving, you're sacrificing in this in that relationship, but it's not really the relationship. It's you investing in the idea. Oh dear, I think I lost my train of thought. So if you're investing in a relationship and it's not the relationship that you're really investing in at all. So you're just like giving and giving and giving. right? So you're like giving into something that is really not there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that it's not
Yeah.
even. So, for example, let's say that Damien and I are like, let's say that we're, I mean, obviously we're in a relationship, but let's say that I'm giving and giving and sacrificing, but if it wasn't Damien, it would be somebody else. And if it wasn't somebody else, it would be somebody else. It's almost like Damien could be immaterial to the situation. It's just that I need to be in a relationship because
Oh,
I
Okay.
need to feel connected. I need to feel loved. But it really ain't even about Damien, about the person. It's about the fact of the relationship. And that's what I think is unhealthy when it can really be anybody. It's not even, so the other person becomes just a pawn in your own need to
Right.
be in a
some
relationship.
object.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
Ooh, yeah, that's some deep stuff.
Well, of course, but see, of course, in something like that, you don't feel appreciated. So you don't feel like you're getting anything back because you're not, because you're too busy giving into it. You're too busy investing, right?
But I think in his example, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter to this other person, right?
Well, I mean, like, let's say me and Damien. So Damien could actually love me and care about me and be invested in the relationship, but I am more invested in the fact of the relationship rather than in Damien because of my own personal issues and my own inability, like for example, inability to receive the love he's offering.
Right.
Mm,
For him.
Or it could be the exact opposite. He's not offering love. I mean, it could be so many different ways that
yeah.
it manifests.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
A common situation right there, Pastor. You know, a lot of men, for example, um, they look for the prettiest woman to marry and to buy things for and to, you know, relish with all these gifts and to use as their trophy wife to build their image. It could be
Mm.
anybody, any beautiful woman really that would take that spot, but they do it in order to put on the front, in order to put on the show, hey, look what I got, look all the money I have, I'm successful or whatever. My wife is never, is always put together, you know what I'm saying? And they just need somebody who is always put together to show that, you know, what they have is, and what they're doing and their level of success is way better than everybody else's. So that's something that came to mind there.
Okay.
That's a good
Yeah,
example.
I can understand that example. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have for tonight. Any questions or thoughts about anything so far? All right, Pastor, turn it over to you.
God bless you. I have a question for you.
For me?
Yeah, since it's the law of sacrifice, when can you sacrifice? Can you sacrifice too much?
Can you sacrifice too much? Yes, if the other person is not doing any sacrificing.
What if they
Like
are?
then no. Okay, like the first thing I said in the beginning, the limits on sacrificing were not to sacrifice your integrity, your character, biblical principles, or your walk with God. Anything outside of that is okay to sacrifice, from according to what this statement is. So I don't think you can over sacrifice. If you're in a healthy relationship and it's a win-win relationship, until it starts hindering the relationship, like if you're sacrificing, like I can't think of an example, but if your sacrifice instead of building the relationship starts tearing it down, then I think that's too much. But if you're in a healthy relationship, both people are invested in it, both people are putting in the work, I don't think there is too much of a sacrifice until outside of those items that I